Welcome to the new sound of online radio. Welcome to the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network. 'Cause you make me feel like I've been locked out of heaven. A mix of today's hits and hard-to-find favorites, combined with the most entertaining and intriguing talk anywhere. This is your sound. This is the sound of Universal Broadcasting Network at UBNradio.com.
Jump off that exhausting hamster wheel and into balanced living with Dr. Marissa. Her mission, to be a beneficial presence on the planet. Her purpose, to be your personal advocate to live, love, laugh, learn. Her life motto, don't die wondering. Take back your life with Dr. Marissa Fay on UBNradio.com.
And welcome. My name is Dr. Marissa, and you are listening to my weekly talk radio show called Take My Advice. I'm Not Using It. Get balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon out of the Sunset Gower Studios at Universal Broadcasting Network on the internet, and every Thursday at 7 for your commute home on my NBC News Radio channel KCAA AM 1050. And this is a show about hope and happiness. So there's no gossip, no scandal, and no K-words, no Kardashian talk. Instead, I want you to focus on your own reality show and how you can be happy 88% of the time. So I bring on guests to talk about how to get there. Like Fran Drescher, who came and talked about the risk and how to reduce your risk of getting cancer. For Marianne Williamson, Dr. Pat Allen, and Don Miguel Ruiz, who came on to talk about love and relationships and how those can make you happy and unhappy. So if you missed any of those, please do go to my iTunes channel, my YouTube channel, my web channel, number 4, balance.org, and you can get free podcast downloads of those. And yes, Erica, thank you for your comment that I've made her a podcast junkie. But please do tune in live as well, because that's when I do my Asian Oprah giveaways. And yes, you do notice my beautiful staff interpreter today, Sharon Pierre Lewis. I brought her on for our Radio for Our Deaf Listeners series. And thank you for sharing those. We get lots of great feedback on how we're providing programming for that population. And it's part of our listening family. And I brought her in today. Today is actually my 2.5-year mark on the air, believe it or not. 130 shows. Thank you, xie, which is thank you in Mandarin for all of the listeners who've really helped make the show a success. And last year, my YouTube channel was 2 years old, and I had 300 views. And as of today, I'm at 17,600 and something. So thank you all. You made that possible. And let's see. What you can do for me is give me the finger. Just kidding. The thumbs up anywhere that you are listening to the show, and on my Facebook page, LinkedIn, or Twitter. I am your host, Dr. Marissa, and thank you for my station manager's help, Tony, Bill, sound engineers Carlos and Mia, and my assistant producer, Jarvis Essex, at both my UBN and KCAA broadcasting families. And here is my balanced news minute with Dr. Marissa, when I try to give you the good news to focus on, the PIN, the positive, inspiring news, instead of the CNN, constantly negative news that's on the headlines, that makes the media a weapon of mass distraction. That's from Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith. Yesterday, I looked at the news. What was trending on Fox? It said, father invites daughter's alleged rapist and tortures him to death. Yahoo is that goat really talking? And today was an amputee celebrating diversity with unique Halloween costumes. So you're going to know who I'm going to give the award to this week. Obviously, today's headlines focuses on what is good and what is right with people instead of what is wrong with people. So congratulations to today. And I'm not blaming the media, by the way. Well, not all the way. We do actually pay attention, and they give us what we pay attention to. So I'm asking all of my listeners to turn off the negative news. Not that we're putting our heads in the sand, but certainly to balance out the negative news with the positive news. And Facebook is a phenomenal way. I've started to take and look at great clips. Jarvis, my assistant producer, has great clips on his page. Different friends of mine, Jane Coe, this week I found a good one that made me smile and laugh. So if you'd like to enter Dr. Marissa's pick for the day, just tag me and or direct me there, and I'll give you a shout out for great news, positive, inspiring news. And today is, yes, you see my American gear on here. It is voting day. So if you're a complainer and you're on my 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa, and you complain about the government and you don't vote, then you don't get to complain. You can complain if you vote. So please do take the rest of the day to try to do a little research. I know it's skewed and people slam stuff on everybody else, but take the time to do the research. And I'm very proud of my older daughter. She's actually at a polling booth doing her community service today. So vote, be the change that you would like to see. All right. Now I am ready for a very incredibly inspiring guest, and I purposely asked Sharon to come, even though he is a musical guest, and I very rarely have musical guests on the program, but I wanted Sharon to be here, and my deaf community could share with their families the power of Paul's music. I found Paul on Pandora. I listen while I work, and I'm inspired by different kinds of music, and twice I went, oh, that's beautiful, and I put a little thumbs up on there, and found out twice that it was Paul Cardall. So I went to his website, contacted his rep. Rep was traveling, did not get back to me, and that next day I got an email from one of my favorite publicists, Harlan Ball, who said, I don't usually represent musicians, but I can't not represent Paul Cardall. So it was serendipity, and so I knew he was supposed to be on my show. So I am very, very proud to welcome on the air with me medical experts told internationally acclaimed pianist Paul Cardall that he would never survive a heart transplant given his long battle with congenital heart defect. Not only did the musician live, but Cardall landed a #1 Billboard album and a Steinway sponsorship without any major label support. Founded his own label, dominated Pandora Radio after undergoing a series of heart surgeries, ending with a complicated heart transplant. He's here to share with us the inside story on his amazing, not surviving, but thriving life journey, Mr. Paul Cardall. Hi, Paul.
Hi, how are you?
Thank you so much for coming on the show and sharing with us a little bit of your time and certainly your life. And so I'm going to do what I usually do with my guests who are fascinating to me, and just ask that you close your eyes with me for a moment and take a deep breath in through your nose and releasing so I can connect with you with chi, eternal energy, breathing in again and relaxing, soft shoulders, soft elbows, soft knees. And my listeners also do this to catch their breath and to just spend a moment connecting. And one more time, deep breath in. And when you're ready, open your eyes and take me back, Paul. When did you realize that you were special?
Well, my parents, I have wonderful parents, and it's rare to have parents that are still together, but after all these years, they're still together. And I was born in 1973 in a time when kids born with defective hearts did not survive. There was a complication with my heart. It was basically only a single functioning ventricle. And immediately, doctors told my parents there was no chance I would survive. And in fact, they even had to take me to another hospital where they could perform an attempt surgery that would maybe correct some of the plumbing issues that would enable me to have a couple months, maybe a year.
Mm.
And fortunately, there was a surgeon who was in California at a conference. He flew all the way to Salt Lake City, and I wasn't even a day old when my parents tell me that they cut into my little chest, and he opened my chest. He worked on my heart, and beautifully orchestrated a little miracle.
Mm.
Um, I survived. My parents were told, "Go ahead, take your son home, but don't expect too much."
Mm.
My parents are very optimistic people,
Mm-hmm.
and they never, um, I guess, treated me different than any of my other brothers and sisters. There were
Wow.
7 others,
Wow.
and so there really wasn't time to say, "Hey, you're more important than the other." I just knew once a year, every 6 months, I got one-on-one time with my parents because they took me to the children's hospital
Mm.
to continue to get medical tests and so doctors could monitor
Great.
what was wrong with me. So, and then I felt like most normal kids.
Mm-hmm.
I was out on the playground with everybody. I guess the only time I felt somewhat nervous or embarrassed or scared was when I had to take my shirt off and
Mm-hmm.
everybody would see the scar.
Okay.
Of course, now it doesn't even faze me.
Right. They're
But
they're battle
yeah,
scars. Good battle
yeah,
scars because you won.
little scars.
Yes. And
Uh,
if you're tuning in just a little late and you're wondering who's on the air with me, it is the amazing Paul Cardall, who's a musician, an internationally acclaimed musician who had every reason to sort of give up. He was born with a congenital heart defect, and I guess it's kind of like the John Q movie, is my guess, where he had kind of a half a
yeah,
heart. Is that about the same?
it's similar.
Similar? Okay.
There's over 40,000 different types of congenital heart disease, but it is the number one birth defect. It is, the leading cause of infant related deaths. There's
Yeah.
probably about 1 million children born worldwide a year with
With
some form of defect
I
that
bet.
require lifelong medical care and most
Mm-hmm.
often need surgery.
Wow. And was news to me when I was doing the research. So you were not expected to live long. You were
No,
not expected certainly to have a normal childhood where you could play and run around and interact, but you did.
I
And
did. And yet, that's how I was raised with somewhat in the back of my mind, you might not grow old.
mm,
You might not go to college. You might not, ever fall in love.
hmm
But when you're a kid, you feel immortal. And, the older we get, the more we start to feel like, oh, I'm noticing all these problems with my body
right.
and what can I do to make my life easier? What remedy is there? But at the time, I was fearless.
Mm,
At age 13, I had open heart surgery because I had a bad infection. A year later, I had reconstructive heart surgery because they had found new ways to make it so that I could run a little faster
mm-hmm,
and get more oxygen into my every part of my body.
mm-hmm.
And so it was really one battle after another, and yet we stayed optimistic through it all. That obviously, to answer your question, my parents said, "There's a reason you're here,"
Mm,
and that's something we should tell our kids anyways.
true.
But
True.
they basically said there's something special and unique
Mm-hmm.
about you, and you're supposed to be here.
That's great. That's great. So when did you start playing the piano?
My brothers and sisters were playing sports, and I leaned towards playing the piano. I took piano lessons when I was 8,
Mm-hmm.
but
So that's
again,
actually a little late. I started at 9, which is
oh,
late
you
too.
did.
Yes.
Yeah, it is a little late.
Yeah.
I think parents can start kids earlier. I was taking lessons from my great aunt, and she was old, and she wanted me to learn all these songs from the 20s and 30s, like, Joplin and Berlin. And at that time, I wanted to learn Michael Jackson's songs,
I
and
see.
I wanted to be able to play the pop songs on the piano. And so after a year, I didn't last a year
Mm,
taking lessons. But as a teenager, as I was kind of contemplating some of the challenges I'd been through,
mm-hmm.
and I had lost a friend of mine in high school, I went back to the piano in my parents' living room and sat there, and it was thinking about why I'm still alive and some of the deeper questions we have in life. And that's when I started to play a melody on the piano, and I learned I could create melodies and I could slowly add the accompaniment. And what it did for me was each note sent this peace to my soul. Like, everything's okay. Everything's fine. Just live your life and love it.
And this is a great time to play a little bit of one of my favorite compositions, Life and Death. So we're just going to take a minute to listen to this. It's so beautiful. That is, every time I sit down and I know I have to do some work that requires inspiration, I turn your music on, by the way.
I guess you heard that on Pandora, I guess.
I did. I was just,
Yes.
and I'm, one of those that's not necessarily generous with my thumbs up. I asked for a lot of thumbs up, but you have to really impress me to get a thumbs up. And so you got 2 of them on the same day, and I went, okay, that's when I have to figure out who this is. But
Well, I
so
appreciate
absolutely. So just realistic. I'm going to put the moose on the table here. It's my Canadian version of the elephant in the room. Were you ever mad? Were you ever like, why me? Were you ever like, this isn't fair? They're out there playing sports and I have to, stay in because if I get too excited, I'm told to calm down. I mean, or maybe you weren't.
As I got older, I became a little more upset at the circumstance, but mainly it was when I became a father and my heart started to fail. I really got upset at the whole scenario because I didn't want to be sick around raising a toddler and a child. I wanted to be healthy. I wanted to be able to go outside and play with this little girl of mine. But unfortunately, I was on oxygen all the time, canceling gigs, not able to record music. And that's when the doctors told me I needed a heart transplant. That's when I got even more upset because I knew, gosh, getting a heart transplant, that means I'm going to be taking the organ of somebody else. That's somebody's son or brother or father, and someone's going to lose somebody. And not that they're dying so that I could live, but somewhere out there, there's the beauty of organ donation, and somebody's passing. They don't need that organ anymore. But all these thoughts, all these emotions, was complicated for me. And
this wasn't that long ago, right?
No, it was 5 years ago.
5 years ago.
September that I received the heart. But I was listed for the heart in 2008. I waited about 385 days.
But who's counting?
Got the heart.
Yeah. No, so your heart was declining. It wasn't to the point. So up to that point, you'd been able to function with the diminished capacity heart that you had. So it wasn't really, you weren't suffering, so to speak, but it became untenable, is my guess.
Congenital heart disease, it's unique because you pretty much just get shortness of breath and you get tired and swelling, you get edema. But it's not like another disease where you're in a lot of pain. You just struggle to move. You feel like a snail. And often because of the heart failure, my body would swell up. So I always felt like Violet from, Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory. Maybe they could just take me to the squeezing room and dejuice me. But so it was an awkward time. I sat in a chair. I kept a blog to communicate with my fans. And if my daughter wanted to find me, there was a big oxygen tank and there was a 50-foot cord. And she would just grab hold of that cord and her dad would be at the other end of it. So
Wow.
it was a bittersweet time.
Right.
but it was a beautiful time.
Mm. Why was it beautiful? Like how, and I'm asking this, and if you've just joined us, I'm talking to Paul Cardall, an inspiring man who was born with basically half a heart and then put on the list for a heart transplant. And all in this time, he's living and he's writing and he's composing the most inspirational music that I have heard. And how does one sit in tragedy? How does one sit in a diminished state, quote unquote, according to the world? Like if you don't have full health, how do you sit there and say it was a beautiful time?
Well, to answer that, if I were to give you your birth certificate with an expiration date, would you want to know what it is? It's a good question.
Good question. Yes and no. Yes and no.
Right.
I'm grateful. My life motto is don't die wondering. And
Right.
So, life is short and I live every day as if this is my last day. But
Every minute of every hour is fragile.
right. And for you, I guess knowing that, I had a friend, now that you remind me, I had a best friend in grad school, Michael Maine, who found out he had HIV positive and then died of AIDS. And I also asked him the same question. And he said, there's a beauty to know that my time is limited because I don't waste 1 minute.
Well, and that's the key is when you're given a diagnosis, and the doctors told me I had a year to live, and it would take maybe about a year to get a heart. I had a choice because how we react to our circumstances, it's not about us. It affects other people.
Right.
And it's harder for me in that experience to watch the ones I love sit in wonder and they're praying for me, they're serving me, in a way I felt kind of selfish because everyone's taking care of me. And so it becomes a very beautiful thing because you accept the service. In the beginning, it's hard to accept the service.
Yes, I get it. And just the little backstory, I'm assuming you're married. So tell me how you met your wife.
I actually met my wife on a cruise to the Holy Land. It was a beautiful setting to meet her. And she's just been a blessing to me and really manages me. And
I like she manages you. Ha ha ha.
She does it very well. I want to say she completes me, but that's so overused.
Right. Plus that assumes
Jerry
that you're
Maguire
not enough.
Correct.
Yes. And you are whole in and of yourself. So were you playing on the cruise? Sorry, I'm nosy.
I was actually playing on the. I played a little bit on the cruise. There was a while there that I was hosting tour groups. I was asked to go on cruises as kind of a celebrity guest, and so I did a couple of those. And fortunately, that's where I met her.
Wonderful.
And it was a beautiful romance. So.
Aww. Now, were you ever, again, to put the moose on the table, did you ever think, I don't want to marry her or have children because I don't know how long? Did that ever cross your mind?
That's the question I always posed to her was, right off the bat when we met, I said, listen, I've got a congenital heart defect. I've got heart complications. And she says, listen, I could go drive and somebody could run into me. And I could, be gone in a car accident.
Right.
We can't live our lives waiting for tragedy to happen.
Thank you. Say that again, please, to my listeners.
Don't live your life waiting for a tragedy.
Yeah.
Expect a miracle every day. You will see them happen.
Yes. I totally agree with you. I'm so glad. It breaks my heart when I hear people worrying about something that is living their life based on the worry, well, we're going to get attacked or the economy's never going to recover or, and this just worst case scenario that just drives the whole timbre and the energy vibration down for our country and for our planet.
Well, we're afraid of a lot of things, but that's because there's a lot of big organizations that want us to be afraid in order to, you know,
Yes.
have their needs met.
Yes.
When in
Yes.
reality, one of the beautiful analogies my wife always says is if it's making you swim upstream, then maybe you need to reevaluate what it is that's causing you so much stress.
Wow. Yeah. That almost sounds like a law of attraction statement.
It is. And, you take the analogy of, I wrote a song called The River years ago. And for me, I was looking at how there's this swift current and the fish are facing upstream, but there's these rocks in the middle of the river and they're really calm behind these rocks. What are the rocks in our lives that, can protect us from the fast-paced current of society? We need to create those
Beautiful.
places, those moments that we can go to get, I guess, control over our life again, and to reevaluate where we are, what are we doing, and what do we want for ourselves.
Yes. Yeah. And even asking those mini questions like that every time we take a very deep breath and just step away from what we're doing. I call that a soft reset. And just answering those questions. Okay, who am I really? Am I really what that person just said? Or
Right.
am I really what I'm afraid that people are saying? Or who am I? And
Right.
what do I want in this moment? How do I get back to that 88%, which you're obviously living in? And what is your beautiful wife's name?
Her name is Tina.
Hello, Tina. And shia Tina for the support and the managing that you do of Paul to help him be so inspiring.
Well, all men should have good women to manage them.
I'll have to put that in a commercial.
Well, Doctor, that's the beauty of music and allowing us to take the time to meditate, to reevaluate our own lives. And it's been clinically proven. In fact, McGill University did a study that says certain types of music, like the music I create, boost the immune system. And listening to it during the day is more effective than certain antidepressants.
There you go. Another reason you're my guest on the show. And my dad went to McGill, so that's even more special. And this is a perfect time to play another little clip called Time, which I also love. So we'll take a breath, and if you're listening, just take a minute to do that stop and that let's rest behind a rock right now. And for my deaf community listening, let's just take that moment and just do some deep breathing and answer that question, who am I? And the answer is you're wrapped in a warm blanket of worthiness. You are loved, loving, and lovable. And we'll just revel in that with the beautiful music of Paul Cardall. Beautiful. And we're going to actually take a little commercial break to thank the sponsors of today's show. And when we come back, I'm going to tell you all the amazing things Paul's been doing after his heart surgery and how we can support him. So we'll be back in 2 and 2. Peace in, peace out.
Do you want to be a part of a holistic solution to our broken jail system? The Emerging Leaders Academy is helping reduce the California statistic where 3 out of 4 people return to prison within their first year out. In partnership with the LA County Sheriff's Department, LA Urban League, Goodwill, Long Beach PD, and the Agape International Spiritual Center, ELA, a nonprofit program, is a transformational path to opportunities with responsibility and a recognition of the unique role we all have in this thing called life. If you would like to be a partner in someone's inside-out transformation with career development, entrepreneurship, therapeutic literacy, financial education, and hope to those who think they have no alternative than to return to jail, then be the change you want to see and become an ELA partner. Visit emergingleaders360.org today. Do you want more life balance? Are you 88% happy with your health and well-being, your relationships, your livelihood? If yes, do the abundance. If no, and you'd like a life balance tune-up and align those head, heart, spark plugs and smog check the BS belief systems that are clogging your lifelines, contact Dr. Marissa, the kinder, gentler Dr. Laura at www.4balance.org for a session on the air or a private one on the beach.
And welcome. You are listening to Take My Advice. I'm not using it. Get Balanced with Dr. Marissa every Tuesday at naturally high noon on ubnradio.com. Broadcasting out of the Sunset Gower studios where Scandal, Newsroom, and Dexter are filmed, but no scandal on this show. And also Thursday on my newly syndicated station, NBC News Radio, KCAA AM 1050, Thursday at 7 p.m. And today I have an amazing, inspiring guest again, part of my series on awardees of Dr. Marissa's Beneficial Presence on the Planet Award. Paul, that is your award today for taking something called, some people would call tragedy, just like Nick, who was in jail, framed and on death row for 8,000 days and exonerated by DNA. Instead of being bitter, he came out, also now helping those on death row who shouldn't be. And Frederick, who I had on last week from Rwanda, who had his hands removed by the Rwandan regime. Again, every reason to feel put upon or bitter or unforgiven or with unforgiveness, and instead inspires by creating a community that supports people, amputees, in his home of Rwanda. And today I have Paul Cardall, who was born with a congenital heart defect, half of a heart, and he did not sit by and watch life go by in case he was going to die, but instead grabbed life by what I call the ballpark, and has made just the most beautiful music, and now uses his gift of music to help those children who are also in his situation, born with a heart defect, because the surgery and the treatment is so very expensive. And so, Paul, I'm going to read some things that you've done since your heart transplant 5 years ago. At 3 months after your transplant, you founded the Paul Cardall Family Foundation for Congenital Heart Disease. At 6 months after, you sold out at Abravanel Hall and raised $65,000 for the foundation. 6 months after heart surgery, established endowment of the Salt Lake Community College, offering annual full tuition waiver scholarships to students affected by congenital heart disease. At 9 months, and I thought I was an overachiever, at 9 months, climbed the highest mountain peak along the Wasatch Front in honor of your brother, and we'll talk a little bit about that in a second. At 18 months, his album New Life, appropriately called, became the #1 Billboard album and was awarded Album of the Year by New Age Reviews. Published the memoir Before My Heart Stops with Utah publisher Shadow Mountain, selling 25,000 copies in his first 6 months. 2 years after heart surgery, he was awarded the honorary doctorate by Utah State Board of Regents. And in the last 5 years, you've spoke to an estimated 1.5 million people, keynoting medical national galas, charity events, medical conferences, and churches. I think we need an applause just for that. Is amazing. It puts my own beehive to shame. I had a hip replacement, but that's nothing like a heart
Well,
transplant.
it's still transplanting something.
But that is just beautiful, and that's why you're getting your award. and you join a list of esteemed people, a lot of past Oprah guests, and so thank you for that. Let's talk a little bit about your brother. If your heart's not enough of something that should hold you back, but absolutely did not, what you lost your brother, and that was a very sad event.
I did, because you look at the scenario of my parents. It's very Shakespearean, because two of my parents' sons had illnesses. One you could see on an X-ray.
Mm-hmm.
The other we're just learning about. It's called mental illness. And my brother suffered from that later on as he was going to college, and a lot of responsibilities came into his life.
Mm-hmm.
He was working on his PhD at Northern Arizona University, and I had been listed for my heart transplant for about 9 months when he had an episode. And unfortunately, during the episode, instead of getting help from a couple of police officers, he was tasered. He was tasered twice, and the second taser ended his life.
Oh my
It
goodness.
was really ironic and really strange. I got a call from my father saying that we had lost my brother, and it was just absolutely devastating, particularly because my father was a local journalist in Utah, and at the time, there was a headline that went across that said, "The son of, news director Dwayne Cardall has passed away." And so, because I was waiting for a heart,
They
my
thought,
phone got flooded with phone calls saying, "We are so sorry. What can we do?"
right.
Which was really interesting, because I got to hear how people would react in the event of my death. And people were sweet. I mean, can you imagine being in that predicament? And so it was really ironic. But my brother's a fighter, and my brother was extremely successful in everything he did. He was one of the most promising young geneticists, ecological geneticists in the country when he died. And it took a lot of energy out of me, but I was able to go to the funeral. But I made a commitment on the day that he passed. I knew he wanted me to fight like hell to live.
Right.
And that's when I made the commitment to climb a mountain.
Okay.
1 year. So the commitment was, I'm going to get my heart, and 1 year from his passing, I would climb the highest mountain peak in Utah.
Wow.
And that's, I believe in the power of intention, and that's what I
Yes.
started to do. I started to think, this is going to happen. And I knew my brother was cheering me on still.
Yes.
And
Yes.
3 months later, on September 9th, 2009, I got the heart transplant. And 9 months later, on June 9th, 2009, I climbed, on 2010, I climbed Mount Olympus with all my family.
But everybody went?
Everybody, listen, you don't want to climb a mountain by yourself.
I don't climb mountains. Hiking, I'm allergic to hiking, so we don't have to worry about that.
But it's very similar to life. We don't want to go through it on our own. We've got to surround ourselves with an amazing support group. And that is the only way I was able to get to the top,
Wow. Yeah.
was my family pulling me, and my
Beautiful.
brothers,
That's beautiful.
memory, and everything. It was a beautiful day.
What was his name?
His name was Brian.
Brian.
Yeah.
Sweet.
Very gifted musician himself. In fact, on my album New Life, there was a piece he wrote about one of our grandfathers, and I took that song, and it's called The Traveler.
I'll have to go find that one.
Yeah.
That's beautiful. Yes, I actually started on the path of clinical psychology, and then I realized I didn't have enough patience. But the most amazing. I think the best 2 years of my life was spent with Hillview Mental Health Center up in Pacoima, because I worked with 13 mentally ill, chronically mentally ill, paranoid schizophrenics and manic depressives. And it was the best 2 years of my life, because the respect and the gratitude and the understanding and the compassion for and respect for the disease, and that fine line between health and mental illness is so slight. And I had several PhD students as well, and so that if we look at life as if we don't take life for granted, and we see every moment as the opportunity to find and hone and share our gifts and to leave this planet a better place, then we don't have to worry about anything, right? The Dalai Lama says, if there's a problem and there's a solution, there's nothing to worry about. And if there's a problem and there's no solution, which is what's going to happen to me and my health, then there's nothing to worry about.
Right.
And
Yet I do believe it is important to take complete control over your own health. Don't let one doctor make a decision for you. You are to shop for your doctor just as you shop for a home that you're going to live in.
Good point. Absolutely.
Get control over your own health is key to my survival.
Yes. Yeah, I'm sure you've learned that the hard way, it sounds like.
Right. Well, when you have a defect, and very few people have survived from it, I'm the first in Utah to receive a heart transplant with my complicated case. But it took a matter of me trying to educate as much as I could about my own situation, and then asking doctors the right questions and trying to figure out, where should I go to have this surgery done? Because not everybody was equipped to deal with a congenital defect.
Now, you share a lot of this information in your nonprofit work, correct?
I do, because the reason congenital heart disease, the reason I spend so much time with it, I've been richly blessed. I've sold lots of records. This particular album that I put together, Saving Tiny Hearts, that comes out on November 11th, I'm donating my royalty to help medical research. Because there's an organization called Saving Tiny Hearts, which is the name of the album. They're the most effective at prolonging life, because they have a team of medical advisors that handpick the best grant application, and then we seed the money so they can get a grant for the most effective solution to a problem, so more kids, more people will live a long life.
That's beautiful. And that is coming out November 11th. I watched the video yesterday. It was beautiful. Now, you weren't playing the drums in that, were you?
No.
Oh, okay. I was like, wow. He's cute.
Yeah. He's got those Roy Orbison glasses on. He looks fantastic.
Are you saying he's not without his glasses? No, we're not going there. Anyways, so November 11th, Saving Tiny Hearts. It will be available all over the place, Amazon, iTunes, correct? And all proceeds are going towards this foundation that helps these all the children who are being born with, and you said up to 1 million children are born with some kind of a heart defect, correct?
Yes, and it's interesting because congenital heart disease, it's the number one birth defect, but it's the least funded.
Now, why is that?
I think it's because you can't see the problem unless these kids take their shirts off and you see the scars.
Okay. Well, we're going to change that. We're going to change that as of right now. All my listeners.
I think everybody needs, every disease needs, funding.
Yes.
But this particular illness, it's so complicated, and it's the main reason parents lose a child at birth, and which is, it's sad enough, as it is when you lose your child, especially if it's your firstborn or whatever, it's challenging. But
yes,
the fact that I'm alive, I know these other kids can survive. It's just a matter of having the proper procedures in place.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me talk a bit about your inspiration process, because I play the piano and I also write.
Good.
When you prepare to write, do you sit down and say, I'm going to write, or do you just sit down and then sometimes you feel inspired and sometimes you don't?
Yes.
Okay.
It's up and down. There are days where it just flows through me, and days it doesn't. Right after the heart transplant, I actually forgot a lot of my music. I had to relearn a lot of it. And I thought, gosh, after this experience, I should have all these brilliant ideas, because I've been dealing with the highs and lows of my life almost ending. And yet it took me about a year and a half before I started to write that number one record, New Life. And then it seemed like after a year and a half, all of a sudden it just came like lightning. Everything started to pour through me. And really all I'm doing is interpreting emotions with the piano versus trying to paint a picture or tell a story. It's an emotion that I get through.
Beautiful. Yeah. And that emotion, I liken it almost to the inspiration, or we all have that connection. Yeah. We all are capable of being, I call it, taking that plug out of your butt, or in your case, out of your heart, and plugging it into the matrix type energy grid of the, and that we all can be inspired and then use whatever our gift is to channel that energy through. Yours through the piano and writing, mine through my mouth talking or writing. And so that gift is accessible to all of us. So
yeah. And I think, Doctor, that it's a common thread of spirituality that's
thank you for that. I was waiting for that segue.
Best defined in 4 letters, LOVE.
Yes.
It's when we all are in tune with that principle of love.
Right.
And it's a universal language, and it's you're correct. It's through story, it's through art, it's through music. It's in all kinds of ways, but we all feel it. No one's immune.
Right. And I love that, because I feel connected to you through that vein of love, that vein of spirituality, or that vein of that energy that transcends the religion or the religious aspect of things. And I love that, because, one of my favorite songs that I shared with you that I checked twice was actually The Temple. And the full name is I Love the Temple.
I love to see the temple.
I love to see the temple. And then
some different religions that use a temple. It's a sanctuary, and it's just a nice little reminder of that there's something greater than ourselves, and yet we can get in tune with creation and with spirituality and essence, love.
Yes. And that's what I love about our generation, is that we're not limited by the religion anymore. We can actually transcend and all gravitate towards that love. And you certainly are a great example of that connection, in a very limited connection physically that I've had with you. I do feel the same love for life, and certainly the love for what you're doing and the inspiring work that you do. Thank you so much for coming on the air with me. And any last words to my listeners or anyone out there?
No, I appreciate all that you're doing to bring more light into the world. I think that people generally are all good. We just need to give everybody a chance and look at the world as a gift. We never know when tragedy is going to take place, and so don't wait for it.
Yes.
Just focus on enjoying and making today more beautiful than it already is.
Beautiful. And that was Paul Cardall, #1 Billboard artist, amazing inspiration, born with half a heart, but now has a heart that has expanded to cover the world with the beauty of his music. Thank you so much, Paul, for coming on the air. Wow. I am inspired. And wrapping up today's show with a few balance bars. Oh, and in case I didn't say it already, his website is his name, paulcardall.com. So you can go there and support him. And his work with and Saving Little Hearts is coming out November the 11th, which is not that far away, and you can support him, and all proceeds go towards that foundation that helps the little children who are born with congenital heart disease. Wrapping up today's show with a few balance bars. Yes, where you get served a menu of where I'm speaking and what I'm offering as my Asian Oprah giveaway. And we're blessed today to actually have a CD, of course, of Paul's that if you go onto my website, the number 4balance.org, and just put down music, I will contact you and get that CD to you. And Marissa won the last Asian Oprah giveaway, which was was it Nick's book? No, Nick went to Lisa, and I forgot to announce it. And Risa won Frederick's book, The Endless Hope. And I will be speaking at the makeitinamerica.net conference in San Diego, November the 21st, and from 1 to 2:15. And it will be, the topic is grabbing life by the ballpark and reinventing yourself no matter what tragedy hits. Join me on December 13th for you at USC for Voices of the Unheard, put on by the USC School of Social Work, featuring theatrical performances of poetries of kids in juvie. Bobby Brown and my big brother, Dr. Michael Bernard Beckwith, will be there. And so tickets are at brownpapertickets.com. And a shout peace in and peace out to my valet guy. His name is Happy, and it's actually his real name. I took a picture of his California driver's license just to prove it. And yes, we started round 41 of the 21-day fast from complaining with Dr. Marissa, my good life exercise I run online. Today is day 4, and the balance tip is: danger is only one letter away from anger. And according to Dr. Deepak Chopra, there's 2 emotions that will keep your heart and your body not functioning properly, including your immune system. That's anger and hostility. So be very careful, because anger will also lead you to the complaining. Instead, there are 3 emotions that you can choose that make your cells dance together in harmony. And those are, of course, love, peace, and then the interesting one is creativity. So if you've always wanted to learn how to play the piano, be inspired today and just sit at the keyboard and you can practice and learn. So you choose either peace and love and creativity or anger and hostility. That's today's balance tip. And if you've ever complained about the government, as I mentioned earlier, then you should be out voting today and cover the complaint with an action step so that you can be the change that you want to see. Finally, I'm running a special promotion for anyone that wants to have a spot on the show or on my NBC station. 150 is the special that I'm running this week instead of the 250. So if you have a book or a service or anything that you would like to promote, like my nonprofit did today, Emerging Leadership Academy, then I can help you with a copy and we can put it together, and it's only 150, and it's a great way for you to share what your unique talent, gift, and ability is and support my show at the same time. So that's it for this week. Next week, I have my fellow honorees from the Asian Heritage Awards categories. Tina Go is the award-winning electric and classic cellist, and she's in studio actually playing her cello, the classical one. And Devin Patel, CEO of GeoStar, who is a pioneer in stem cell research. So they are also helping, just the way that Paul's foundation is trying to improve the medical treatment and also bring costs down. So they're doing that for stem cell research. So don't miss and tune in next week to take my advice. I'm not using it. Get balanced with Marissa Pay. That's P for positive, EI. And remember, it's all about balance, peace in, and peace out.